In this segment, I'm going to take a look at the Turning Angle Fill tool. And that's found here on the left-hand side of your workspace, the top of the designing toolbar. So similar to the other tools that we've looked at so far, the Parallel Fill tool and the Circle and Square tool, this tool also has options. And if I fly it open, we'll take a look and see that we have Turning Angle Satin Fill, Turning Angle Weave Fill, Turning Angle Embossed Fill, Turning Angle Contour Fill, and Turning Angle Radial Fill. So I'll go ahead and choose Turning Angle Satin Fill to start out, and I'm just going to clean up my desktop by saying Control-A and Delete. And maybe what I'll do is zoom into a smaller area and show how this tool works. Now, this tool is very different from the Parallel Fill tool because we no longer need to draw the outline. In this case, we need to draw in sets of points that make up the stitch angles. So it kind of goes like this. So for example, I'll put in the first point. Oh, sorry, I need to select the tool. I'll put in the first point, and then I'll move over and I'll put in a new point, and that will be a stitch angle. Now, the mouse becomes connected back to point number 1, and I can bring it down and create point number 3 and point number 4, and those become the next stitch angle. And one more time, I'm going to bring it over and create point number 5 and 6, and again a new stitch angle. And I can keep going like this, putting in as many sets of points as you like until I hit enter, at which point it closes the shape and fills it in with thread. Now let's take a really close look at that object. So you can see here that the stitches, this is why it's called Turning Angle Fill, because the stitches turn from angle 1 to angle 2 to angle 3 to angle 4. And so each of those sets of points is how we create this object. And like I said, the stitches are no longer parallel, they're turning. So if I was to select that object and choose Reshape, you'll see that with this object, I have the ability to adjust the stitch exit point and entry point, so you can have it start anywhere on any place in the design you want. You can have it finish in any place of the design that you want. And you can, just like any other object, you can change the shape, so you can move the nodes. You can add new nodes just by clicking on the shape, and it adds a new set of nodes. But what's different here is the nodes have 2 points. Now maybe if I can get really close you can see this. Maybe if I turn the 3D view off, helps a little bit. So, oh, and I actually just clicked on the line and added a second set of nodes there. I'm going to hit undo for that. So this is what it looks like. The yellow point is the actual shape node, and notice that right beside it there's a small orange triangle. That's actually an angle line for this set of points, and you can adjust them independently of each other. So see, I left the shape node there, but I was able to turn my angle line just so ever so slightly. So you have the ability to adjust your stitch angle after you enter in the shape nodes. So, but if you just choose to change the shape node, it will pull the angle line with it. Did you see how that worked? Let me get a little closer here. If I just grab on this corner and move it, the angle node is moving with it. But if I grab the angle node and move it, it will change the angle independently of the shape. See that? And now if I move the shape, the angle line still sticks with it. So when you move the nodes, the angle lines move with them. But if you move the angle line, off of the nodes, it will move independently of the shape node, but you can still move that shape node and the angle line gets moved with that. So that's a little bit different. Now let's go back to creating some more of these Turning Angle Satin Fills. And one of the things I like to say, this helps me to remember how to use the tool, is I might say to myself, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. Because if you cross the lines, I'll start another one. If you say top, bottom, and you're going along top and bottom, and then you switch and you forget and you go bottom, top, you've crossed your lines, And what happens is, if I hit enter, the thread kind of just twists onto itself a little bit and starts up again. And it won't necessarily be a problem for sewing, but you don't have a nice consistent border. It's meant to be, so you have to try to keep track of which side is which. Now, you don't have to say top, bottom. You may want to say left and right, or it could be something more like inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside, inside, outside. So it's really up to you how you use the tool or how you remember what it's, which side is which. But that's one thing that I've found that works really helpful for me, is to be able to sort of keep track of side 1 and side 2 a little bit separately. Now, that's parallel satin fill. We also have that's turning angle satin fill. We also have turning angle weave fill. And same thing, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And primarily the difference is one has got stitches through the middle, one has stitches on the outer edges. And so, as you get into larger stitch areas, you'll want to switch to using a weave fill versus a satin fill. Another tool option would be a turning angle embossed fill. And again, I'll just go ahead and create 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, hit enter, and you can see that although the stitches turn, they also have a pattern in the background. So that's the embossed fill option. So let's take a look at the next tool option here, which is the contour fill. And again, if I say 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2, so I'll put in 3 sets of points and hit enter, and you'll see here that the stitches turn quite differently on my shape. Let's just take a look at that. So that's the contour fill, and I'm going to go ahead and create a contour fill with the parallel fill tool, just so you can see the difference, and I'll create the same shape. So we'll put in here points with the parallel fill tool to create the same shape, hit enter, and yet the contour is very different. So the contour fill on a turning angle will look different than the contour fill on the parallel. So if you use the contour with this option and you have a different sort of shape, you'll see the way that it contours around your shape. So there's 2 different contour tools that give quite a different result to the type of stitches. And that really, you'll find there'll be places where one will just seem more appropriate than the other. So one way or another, this is the turning angle tool, which I call the 2-point tool. This is the parallel fill tool, which I call the outline tool. Now let's see, I think there was still one more, so we can do the turning angle radial fill. And I'll just maybe make myself a little bit more space. And again, 1, 2, new stitch angle, 1, 2, and new stitch angle, 1, 2. I'm going to hit enter. You'll see that it has that radial fill pattern around the turning angle stitches. Yeah, so that's a little bit different tool from the parallel fill tool. This one's called the turning angle fill tool. Now, I'm just going to do a quick demonstration. I'm going to use my parallel fill tool to create a circle. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Choosing my parallel fill, I'm going to choose a parallel satin fill, and we'll just simply go like this. Right click, right click, right click, right click, and when I hit enter, it's going to fill that circle in with thread. And that was created using the parallel fill tool. Now, if I create a circle using the turning angle fill tool, I can create almost the same shape. If I go 1, 2, that's a stitch angle. Whoops, come back, that was my panning. All right, where was I now? 1, 2, that was a stitch angle. Now I'm going to create again 1, 2, and this time I'm right clicking to get the rounded points, and then coming down to the bottom again, 1, 2. So, very similar shapes, very similar stitches, but I created them using different tools. Now, something I haven't shown, and I will come back to this, but I'm just going to quickly show this. For example, if I take the parallel fill tool, this was the circle that I used I created using the parallel satin fill option. If I choose the cut hole feature, I'm going to cut a hole out of the center of this circle. Turn it into more like a donut. So there you have a parallel satin fill in the shape of a donut. But if I use the turning angle satin fill tool to create the same shape, I would need to go something like this. Inside, outside. And then I'll come over here and I'll right click, inside, outside. Come down here. Right click, inside, outside. I'm right clicking to get curve points. Inside, outside, and then one more time, inside and outside. And when I hit enter, it fills it in with thread, but now you'll see that although they're the same shape, very different stitch results. You see, this stitch was created using the turning angle satin fill tool. And this object, this shape, was created using the parallel satin fill tool. And so here we can see the thread is parallel, all the same stitch angle. Here we can see that the thread is turning. What you can see here are known as shortened stitches, and I'll talk about shortened stitches again later, but basically they have to do with the fact that the stitch angle is turning quickly, and so the software is just trying to compensate for that by putting in a few little half stitches. And you see, as I move the shape around, I can actually adjust those half stitches so that they're not there. But they're not actually visible when you stitch the design out, and it gives you a lot better sewing results when you have that in there. So that's the turning angle fill tool, and also kind of a comparative with the parallel fill tool. So again, parallel fill tool, you create the outline. Turning angle fill tool, you create sets of 2 points.